Hi everybody and welcome to the first video on quadratic inequalities. In this video we have a look at how to find the solution for quadratic inequalities. So what we're going to find that is there's two forms of quadratic inequalities. Either our thing that we are looking for is less than 0, so we're looking at the interval between the two points that we find, so we're looking at this interval, or it is greater than, and then we are looking at this interval and this interval, but we'll see exactly how to do the solution. If you've already practiced some, pause this video and try them now before you attempt it with me. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one. Now for quadratic inequalities, the rules are almost the same for quadratic equations. Is we get the one side equal to 0. So I'm going to take the 6x over and we're going to have that. And then the key is also to factorize. So here I'm taking out a common factor of 3x, and then we have x minus 2 is greater than 0. So what we're going to do is find the critical values, as I call them. So it's the points on the values that we will use our inequalities based on. So the one critical value is when 3x is equal to 0. So we get x is equal to 0. And so this is a critical value. And the other one is when x minus 2 is equal to 0. So when x is equal to 2. So the next step is to then draw a positive parabola through your critical value. So we have 0 and 2, and I'm going to draw a positive parabola through it. So what we would like to do, then we look at our inequality, this is greater than. So on a graph, greater than is where it's above the x-axis. So it is this piece over here and this piece over here. So then the inequality corresponds to x being less than 0 or x being greater than 2. Whether we use a strict inequality or not will depend on the original one. So here it was greater than, that's why these are strict inequalities. Let's have a look at the next one. So in this one here, we've already got one side equal to 0, so we're going to factorize. The factors of 6 that give us minus 5 is x minus 2 times x minus 3. If you're not sure on how to factorize inequalities, please watch our quadratic equations videos earlier. So then that is less than 0. We would then like to find our critical values. Okay, and that is when x minus 2 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 2, or x minus 3 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 3. Again, the next step is for us to draw a parabola with those points, a positive parabola. Oops. And we know it's a positive, we look at whether it's a positive parabola or negative parabola looking at the coefficient of x squared. If it's positive, then it's a positive 1. And now we are looking for where our critical values are at 2 and 3. And we are looking for the where it is less than. So less than is below the x-axis, so it corresponds to this piece over here. And then this interval as an inequality is that x is between 3 and 2. So now let's have a look at the next one. So this one here, again, we're going to factorize. We're looking for the factors of 5 that give us positive 4. So x plus 5 times x minus 1 will give us positive. So then we go on to the next step where we find our critical values. So we have x plus 5 is equal to 0, which means x is equal to negative 5, or x minus 1 is equal to 0, which means x is equal to 1. Again, we're going to plot a positive parabola through our critical values. So minus 5 is less than 1, a positive parabola, and then what we are looking for is where it is greater or equal to 0. So greater and equal to, it's where it's above the line. So again, we have that bit. So it's this part and that we have to write as an inequality. So this part here is x is less than or equal to minus 5. And why are we using a less than or equal to? Because that was the original sign in the inequality, and x is greater or equal to 1. Okay, let's do the last one. So this one is already factorized for us, so we can go on straight to get our critical values. And our critical values is x plus 1 is equal to 0, so x is equal to -1, or x minus 3 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 3. So again, a positive parabola through our critical values, -1 and 3. And here we are looking for the values of x being less than 0. So you think about that. Which part of the parabola would that be? It's the bottom part. Less than 0 is below the x-axis. And then the inequality would correspond to those x values. So its x is between 3 and -1. And once again, this here dictates whether these are strict inequalities or not. So your answer will always take one of two forms. It's either going to take the form of the greater than sign or the less than sign. So those are the two options. We use our normal equations method to get the critical values. Then what we do is represent it on a little drawing of the parabola, and then from there we get our inequality. Having said this, this is not the only way to do it, and there are other ways, like you tabulating the values, but you can use whichever way you feel most comfortable with. If you have understood this video, please move on to the next video. If you have not, please go over the quadratic equations video on more details on how to get the critical values.